so the first thing we're going to do is take one of these air boxes out. So I'm going to squeeze this. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to squeeze this and then push it in. So I do this first because it's the easiest thing to forget to do. And everything else is going to be, like, you got to take the bolt loose, you got to take this loose. So take the electrical connector loose from the mass airflow sensor. You want to kind of push in and then pull out, and it comes out more easily. Okay. Then I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver for the hose clamp. Loosen that up nice and good. And then we have one 10mm bolt. See, either way, if it's too tight, use your 10mm, and then use your screwdriver. Take this mount bolt out. So, now you're going to want to do this to both sides. I'm not going to make you watch me do both. But, here you go. You want to loosen up this hose here first, give you some work room. Push it down. And then, in fact, you might want to take this on both sides and just completely get it out of the way. That'll give you room to move it. I think that's what I'm going to do. It looks like that's the best thing to do, is to take it off the other end. So take off both ends of this hose that goes to the air box and to the mass airflow sensor. That. And I'm going to wiggle this side loose first. Nice. Pull it up. And then this side can come off. That's going to give us room for, there's one right here too, but I'm going to leave that connected because you don't really need to take it off. Now I can wiggle this air box on the other side. It's probably just plugged in on the bottom. I'm hoping. See, there's something. Just gently pull up on it. There we go. And there's one. See, it has these two little things that you're going to have to snap in. And I probably should show you what it looks like. These two little guys here. They just plug into two little rubber gloves. And I usually put some kind of lubricant on those so that they slip in more easily when you reinstall. So, just a tip. Okay, so here are the two rubber grommets I was referring to, here and here. And of course, here is the power steering pump that we're going to be taking off. Serpentine belts come off. I'm going to remove this hose for more space. And I'll be lowering the shroud for the fans, so I have access. Next, after I take out the other air filter housing, I'll be removing this coolant reservoir, and of course put a pan underneath to catch any drips. So, here we go. Okay, both of the air boxes are off for the air filters. Next, I'm going to take off the coolant reservoir here. There are two 10mm bolts. One is here, okay, one here, and one right there. I use a small screwdriver to go into the end here, the end of these little tubes, these little hoses, to loosen them up on the fitting. It really helps out. And if it's really stuck, you can squirt some WD-40 off in there. But if you just loosen it up around like that, give it a twist, and off it comes, just like that. This is the highest point, so it shouldn't leak, knock on wood. I'm going to loosen up this 10mm bolt on this side that you can't see, but I showed you in the beginning. Loosen it up, take it out, and then I'm going to put it right back in the hole so I don't lose it. That's one way. One way is put it in a magnetic bowl, put it in a Ziploc bag, or put it back in the hole it came out of so you don't lose track of your nuts and bolts and screws and stuff like that. Different little tricks to keep them going back in the holes that they came out of. See? So it should come out. And then there's this little guy on top. Pull it off. With my little screwdriver. See? Little screwdriver. Loosen up this here hose, and it should come right off. And there is the reservoir. That's how it comes off, just like that. Put my two little screws back so I don't lose them. One and two. Alright, now I can just pop this hose off. It's probably going to leak a little bit, but I'm going to take the bottom pan off of the engine first, and then I'm going to put a drip pan under there and then remove this. Here we go. Okay, so we got both of the air filter housings off. We got the coolant overflow reservoir removed. Now let's take a quick look underneath, because I just removed the undercover. So this is what it looks like on top. Okay, with both of them removed. And underneath, I'll show you what it looks like with that underpan removed. Quick peek. So here we go. This is the, well, there's your oil filter and your drain plug there, but we're not doing the oil today. Here's the drain pan, the undercover, the engine undercover. That's 16 10mm bolts that holds that on, just so you know. Here is the drain pan that we're going to put the coolant in, and there's another drain pan over there that we're going to use for the power steering fluid that drips. So you want to keep those separate for recycling. Alright, so let's go back up. Okay, I made sure that my catch pan was lined up directly underneath my pipes. That's kind of important. And take this loose. Loosen it up. There we go. And I'm just going to take it all the way off. Some people take it off and bend it up, but I'm just going to take it out of the way, get it out of the way. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is take off this serpentine belt right here. And to do that, I'm going to take this 3/8 ratchet, which, by the way, little plug, and I'm not sponsored by them. This is a Duralast extendable ratchet. This thing is awesome. It's narrow. The little button is flush, okay? And it doesn't have the 3/8 on one side and the 1/4 on the other. I hate that. You have plenty of room. It's really long. It's nice, good quality. You get these from AutoZone. They got a generic name, Duralast, but these are really high quality, and they're even serviceable. If you really want, you can take them apart if they wear out, and put new gears and stuff in there. So Duralast. This is what I'll be using to relieve the tension on this tensioner. Here we go. You see how they line up? You could stick that in there if you had another person, but if you can't do it from underneath. So I'm just going to take the belt off. So, there you go. Now the belt's loose, I can just take it off. Okie doke. Just this off to the side. Put this back on when we're done. Now, if you do this and you forget the routing of it, I'm going to give you a little bit of a little diagram right now. There you go. And that's, if you trust me, that is my routing of this serpentine belt. So that you can put it back on if you kind of get it mixed up. It's kind of a tricky one, actually. All right, now we can. I'm going to take all of the fluid out of the reservoir, and I'm going to take loose this supply hose next. All right, so now I'm going to take the fluid out of this reservoir so it doesn't leak all over. And the top does not come off that easy. You have these two little tabs, and doesn't look like anything like that. You just have to pull straight up. You have to pull straight up on these two tabs and it comes off. So I have pumps and stuff, but I'm just going to use a syringe. So I'm just going to use a little syringe, suck it all out. Got my little Gatorade, or whatever this was, Pedialyte bottle here, and funnel, and I'm just going to put it all in this. All right. Let's get on with it. In we go. And let's pull it in. Look at that, here it comes. And this will keep me from making a mess when I disconnect these. So there's still going to be a little bit of drippage, but it just won't pour all over the place, you know. and dump it over here. Okay, so now there's a 14 millimeter mount bolt that's holding this power steering pump on, and it's down in between the spokes, so you have to turn the spokes a little bit, and when you go to take it out, it's going to hit the fan. So I'm going to go ahead and find it and fish around here, find that bolt, something like that, get my thing on it, and then I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to show you why you have to take the fan out. Alright, so I loosened up that 14 millimeter bolt. Here's the tip: don't put a deep socket on it, because it makes your deep socket get stuck in there. I actually cheated. I used a little magnetic. You might not have one of these, but you want to use a short one. Don't use a long one to get it out when you go to get it out by hand. Anyway, so this is how long it is. See how that hits there? That hits the, zoom in so you can see it. It hits the fan. Let's see if I can get down there. Let's see. There it is. See? It hits the fan, and you can't get it out. So you have to take these bolts along the top of the fan. There's 2 bolts on the fan. I'll show you those right now. We're going to take those loose. We're going to move the fan a little bit and take out that 14. Okay, so those 2 bolts, if you look at the front of the car, here's the one on the left side of the car as you sit in the driver's seat. Here's the left side. You come around, and ta-da, it is right there. Okay, so I'm going to show you the one on the right side. Come back out, come around, and it is right. Dun, 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 dun. It is right there. Okay, might be hard to see, but it's there. Little bolts. So you take those 2 loose, and you can move your fan out of the way of that 14 millimeter bolt. Okay, so I'm going to take these 2 10 millimeter bolts loose on the fan and remove them so that I can move the fan around. There they are. See? There you go. And there are a lot of hoses and wiring harness pieces connected to the fan, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to take those off. I hope I could just kind of move it a little bit, sneak that bolt out, and put it back. But it's looking like no. It looks like I have to take these off, which is no big deal. You just need the trusty little needle noses. Give them a little squeeze. There's a couple here and there's a couple on the other side. I'm trying to do these 2 first. So here's one. See, that's how hard it is. There's 1 done. There's 2 done. 2 almost done. And it'll free up this fan. And also your transmission fluid cooling lines are bolted in on the other side here. They're kind of clipped to the fan shroud, so you might have to. Those just pull out. They don't have any kind of a hook or a screw. Okay, so I got the fan shroud moved. You can see the distance you need to move it. You need to move it down about 4 inches. Okay, about 4 inches on this side. You're going to have to push it towards the engine to get it off of the bottom mounts. You got to push it forward a little bit, about 1.5 inches or so, to get it to clear those so it can go down. Okay, and you're going to have to take a few of these little clips loose. Let me show you what they look like. These little clips like this, they squeeze in this way. Sometimes you have to get back there with a screwdriver and just push one side in at a time, because you can't get in there with pliers or needle nose. A really useful tool for me was this. I had to get in there with this because I couldn't get in there with even the screwdriver. Go in, and then otherwise you're gonna break them, and then you got to go get some replacements or whatever you do. So that's that. So now my point is, now we have clearance, and we can take out that 14 millimeter mount bolt like that, and there it is. I'm going to loosen up this Torx screw that holds on the pressure, the end of the pressure, or actually not the pressure, the feed line. Okay, and then I'm going to take the pressure line loose while it's still bolted down, so it holds it for me. This thing's tight. You want to do this thing in a kind of an orderly manner so that you're not fighting it or break something. Just a little quickie before I forget. Here's the new one, and this is where the pressure line goes, and this is where the supply line goes. That Torx bolt is bolted in right here. So just to give you a reference, as you slide it in to position here, and then that is what that long bolt goes through. That 14 millimeter at the bottom goes through this, and there's another thing it goes through first, then it goes through this, and then it screws into the engine block. And that's about it. This is what it looks like. This is the new one. Give you a nice slow little turnaround. Doing this kind of in the middle, I know. Sorry about that. And these are what I'm working with to get in, to get the bolts. You're going down off in here to get that 14 right off in here. So here's the new one. So I'll just pull that one out, slide this one in. I'll take these two little caps off at the last minute. You don't want to get any dirt in there. You want to leave them on as long as you can, and then take them off and immediately put the pressure and the supply lines on the pump. And that should do it. And then it shouldn't steer so hard. It should steer easy again. You want to put fresh new fluid in it, and you want to run it a little bit, turn the steering wheel, bleed it out, and then check your level. You should be good to go. So let's get on with it. All right, I'm going to go for that Torx bolt now. It's a T27. T27 Torx, and look at that, piece of cake. Wasn't even that tight. I don't know what the torque is on these. To the specified torque, I'm going to go by mechanics field torque because it's a non-critical. It's not like it's a head bolt or something. There it is. Here's my little ta-da! I don't know if you can. Come on, focus. There you go. Focus. Oops. Okay, so that high pressure supply line bolt, 24 millimeter, is so tight. I'm at the back off with the manual and cheat a little bit here, so sorry guys, but I'm going for the impact. And to that point, you probably want to take this thing off first, because I actually put that 14 millimeter bolt back in because I was cranking on it so hard I thought it would break something. So I'm just going to use the impact. And as easy as that. Something that was once a problem is no problem anymore. And there's two crush washers, see? They look like they're in good shape. One on either side of this fitting. Here's one and there's one on the other side. You have to make sure you don't lose those and make sure you put them back in when you reinstall the new power steering pump. Okay, so I got the old one off. This is what they look like side by side. Here's the old one. We're going to have to remove those two 12 millimeter bolts. I'll do that with the impact. And transfer this bracket over to the new pump here. The other part that you're going to need to swap out is going to be pressure line here. Actually, this is the feed line from the reservoir. And remember, there are two crush washers that do go on the high pressure line. So let's get started, swap things over, and install the new one. Okay, so there's a sliding washer that holds the pump in between the bracket, in between the mount bracket here, if you tap on it, it will slide in and give you more space to put the pump into the bracket. And when you tighten down the bolt, it self readjusts, okay? So you want to tap it like this. You can also do that with alternators when you're mounting them. There's a sliding washer that self-adjusts when you reinstall the bolt. Now we're going to install the new power steering pump. I'm going to put the 14 millimeter on the bottom first through here. So let's see if I can get that slide in. Alright, so we got that bottom one in the hole, so now I'll tighten it up, get it started. I won't tighten it up, I'll get it started with the magnetic socket. Okay, 14 millimeter bolts installed. Now I'll do the 12 millimeter that holds the top bracket on. Right here. And tighten those guys down. And let you have a look at what the new one looks like before we attach the supply and pressure lines. Okay, so this is what it looks like before you attach the hoses, and we're going to attach those next. Don't forget the crush washer and the O-ring. The O-ring, the size of the O-ring, if you want to replace it, is about 0.625 inch OD, and the thickness or the cross section of the O-ring is about 0.05 inches, 50 thousandths thick, 0.05 or 50 thousandths of an inch cross section if you want to replace that O-ring beforehand. Alright, so we'll just connect up these hoses, put the serpentine belt back on, put the fan shroud back on, put the radiator hose back on, and that will be it. We'll put the fluid back in and run it and turn the wheel for a while until all the air gets out. Then check the fluid level, top off as necessary, and that is how you change power steering pump 2012 Infiniti G37. Thank you once again for watching.